Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer. In this video I'm going to share 5 reasons why I think a Nifty 50 is still in 2025 one of the nicest prime lenses you can have for street or travel photography. And the specific lens that I'm talking about in this video is the brand new Viltrox 50mm F2 lens for the Nikon Z system. And a quick disclaimer, Viltrox very kindly sent this lens to me, but this is not a sponsored video, no money changed hands. However, I still have to have the sponsored label up here because of the rules. Anyway, the first reason I think a Nifty 50 like this, for example, is a super nice lens is that in street photography you can keep your distance. Especially if you're a little bit shy, you don't want to go too close to people with your camera. You can keep your distance with a 50mm, but you can still get that in the situation vibe in your pictures, and they don't look like an outside observer took those pictures. With a telephoto lenses you often get that distant observer look in your pictures, and in my opinion street photos should not have that look. It's fine for some other purposes, but not for street photography, in my opinion. Your opinion may vary, might be different, and that's fine. And this is just my opinion. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why I think a Nifty 50mm lens is fantastic for street photography. The next reason, number 2, is that you'll get very natural perspective. Some say the angle of view is the same as in the human eye. But I think it's really difficult to compare a camera lens and a human eye because, first of all, we have 2 eyes, most of us anyway. And when we are looking at things, our eyes constantly move around. So the angle of view of our eyes is not fixed the same way a camera lens's angle of view is. I think a better way to describe that is that with a 50mm lens, things in your picture, they look natural, they look the same size as they would look if you were looking at the scene with your bare eyes. There is no weird distortion, perspective distortion, twisted things towards the corners and edges like you would get with a wide angle, and also the perspective is not super compressed like with a telephoto lens. Before the next reason, let me share my 50mm journey, which is comparatively short. I started my photography sometime around 1975 or so. And in 1983 I became a full-time commercial photographer. But I got my very first 50mm lens in 2008. Imagine that. I had other systems, Mamiya 6x7 and a 4x5 camera, and for those I had something equivalent to a 50. But for my 35mm film camera and for my full-frame digital camera or any digital camera, I never had a 50mm lens before 2008. And sometimes I wonder why. Because 50mm lenses usually are quite affordable, quite compact. At least they used to be compact back in the day. But now some 50mm lenses are huge. And they're usually very good value for money, even today. Sometimes I wonder what took me so long to get a 50mm lens. Anyway, let's move on to the next reason why I think a 50 is a fantastic lens for travel and street. And that is the relatively fast maximum aperture for the shallow depth of field whenever necessary, and also for great low light shooting capabilities or possibilities. You can keep your ISO low or you can keep your shutter speed high for action stopping situations or whatever. Even this relatively affordable Viltrox 50mm lens has a maximum aperture of f2, which is really great in low light and shallow depth of field and all those situations I mentioned already. And almost every 50mm lens has a similar or faster maximum aperture. I think f2 is a really good sweet spot for a full frame lens in my opinion. It allows a really nice compact size, but still f2 on a full frame camera is a fantastic aperture for low light. for example, or shallow depth of field. The next reason is plenty of depth of field when stopped down, almost like the opposite of the previous reason. Stop down to f8, f11 or even f16, you'll get so much depth of field, which is, in my opinion, necessary for many street photos, for example, because it allows you to sort of look around in the scene, in the picture. If there is a very shallow depth of field, it usually makes the ambient atmosphere disappear. And that's why I think a lot of depth of field is good for many or most street photos. But if everything around the main subject is just blur, there's no possibility to see what the location or the situation is or was when the picture was taken. And the fifth reason is the details. With a 50 you can easily capture some details without going super close to your subject. Most 50mm lenses like this one, they have about 50 centimeter, half a meter minimum focusing distance. Some have a little bit shorter, some maybe a little bit longer, but that is enough to capture some details without going super close to the subject. Of course, these are not macro lenses, but if you'd like to record your, I don't know, your cappuccino you had at a nice cafe, it's easily done with a 50mm lens. And now my street shooter's opinion on this Viltrox 50mm F2 lens for Nikon Z mount cameras. I have some likes and dislikes. I'm gonna start with likes. The first like is the super compact and the lightweight size. This weighs in at about 217 grams and the filter size is 58mm, so very compact, and nice to see this kind of an option for us Nikon shooters, because for example the Nikon 50mm f1.8, it's huge compared to this, but only like a third of a stop faster. It's better built, weather sealed and all that, but still it's huge, and I'd much prefer this for travel, for example. The next like is the fast maximum F2 aperture, and the next like is the sharpness. Based on my everyday photography, this is a very sharp lens at every aperture. I don't do test charts, I don't do extreme pixel peeping. I'm just eyeballing my pictures, and my conclusion is based on that this is a very sharp lens at every aperture. And the next like is the reliable autofocus. It's not super ultra fast like on the Nikon 50 f1.8 for example, but it's still plenty fast for normal situations. If you go from minimum focusing distance to infinity, then you can see that it's not quite as fast as the more expensive lenses. But if you go from 5 meters to 10 or 10 meters to infinity, or even 5 meters to infinity or something like that, you'll have no issues with this lens. It's plenty fast for that kind of shooting, and I never had any problems on the street out there. Every picture turned out tack sharp. And the last like is the build quality. This is a budget lens, very basic lens. There are no extra features or functions, but still the build quality is really nice for what it is, for a budget lens. Nice plastic exterior. It does not feel like a cheap lens by any means. My only real dislike is the backlight performance. If you shoot in the sun, for example, you'll easily get flare, and you'll also get easily this almost like a rainbow style flare or reflection or whatever it is. Sometimes it might even look cool in your picture, and for me it's not a deal breaker or anything, but it's something to be aware of. But when you consider the price point of this lens, you can't really expect perfect performance in every regard, like flawless performance. And if you shoot into the sun, just cover the lens with your left hand a little bit and you'll get rid of that flare easily. It's not such a deal breaker. The price for this lens is $199 US, 229 euros. In Europe, the price includes our sales tax. In the US, the price does not include the tax. I think this is a fantastic value for money, great travel street lens because of the tiny size and lightweight. This is all I have for you in this video. If this was enjoyable or helpful, please do consider supporting my channel. You can buy me a coffee, link down below. If you don't live in Finland, you can also buy my e-zines, link down below. I'll have new issues coming up soon, by the way. They are under construction right now. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon in the next video.